The reason this is my favorite movement is because it's so versatile, and look what you can do with it.
To the rest that all get sliced and diced. Competition's paying the price.
This is a tutorial, and you're going to learn this. So we're on to move number 2. And I call this the modified Charleston only because I don't know what else to call it. I think it's more of a Charleston that you would do kind of sideways. When we think of Charleston, if you've been watching other videos, you're normally thinking front, back, right? Kind of going back and forth. And we're going to incorporate some of that. But this is going to be like a lateral Charleston. We're going to go kind of sideways using the same kind of moves. So if you haven't seen any other videos, don't worry about it. We're going to start fresh. And here we go. This actually is going to be probably, one of the hardest ones. It's not that hard, but it's going to be harder probably than the other 2 moves that we discussed as far as how to do it. When you get good at it, though, it's actually really not that hard of a move at all. It's in fact easier to perform. It's less taxing than the running man, but it just takes, just a little bit of practice just to get into being able to do this with the footwork. And here's how you do it. What you do is you just start with your heels together and your toes kind of pointing apart, right? So there they are, they're pointing apart at a 45-degree angle, say, on each side. And let's just practice doing this. Let's just practice, we're on our heels, let's just practice on the balls of our feet doing this. Just having our knees go together and our heels go out. So we're on our heels, our toes are pointing out, say 45 degrees on each side. And all we do is pivot on the balls of our feet, bringing our knees together and our heels out. Michael Jackson style, woo, right? If you're a male and you get kicked, woo, right? So heels, toes out, pivoting on the ball of your feet, on the balls of your feet. Okay, so once you've practiced that for a little while, let's do the same thing, but let's lift the right leg. Well, we do this. You're looking at it, I guess, from the left, but either leg. Let's just say your right leg, whatever leg, it might be easier for you to lift your right leg. For most people, it might be. So we do the same thing, but instead of just doing this, we're going to lift our leg, right? So that's all we're doing. Okay. Then let's practice it the other way around. Let's do the same thing. We're pivoting on the balls of our feet, but instead of doing this, we're just going to lift the opposite leg, right? That's all we're going to do, right? Okay. Might take a little bit of practice, but once you can do that, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to lift our leg, but instead of just having our foot come down in the same place, we're just going to have our foot come down a little bit further out. So we're going to pivot on the balls of our feet, and our foot's just going to come down a little bit further out. Right? So practice that. Your right leg goes up, and it comes down. Or if you mirror it the other way around, however you want to do it, right? Right? So in, and then you land here. We should go with the other leg now. Let's do the same thing the other way around. Right? Left leg. Left leg. Or if you mirror it the other way around, however you want to do it. What we're doing, not doing this, but, right? So instead of this, we're combining it to that, right? Pivot, land. So you can pick out one thing, say heels out, heels in. Okay. Heels out, heels in. It's a good way to do it. Heels out, heels in. Heels out, land, heels in. Back to where we started on the other side. So this leg again, the right leg, or if you're mirroring it, your left leg. We're going to do the same thing. Heels out, heels in. Now we're going to put all our weight on the leg that we just landed on. And we're going to do the same thing, bringing this leg back. We're going to go heels out, heels in. So we're going to land here, and now we're going to do it's kind of the same thing, but from this position. Heels out, heels in. Here, and then we're going to do the same thing from this position. Heels out, heels in. Right? So here we are. Right? So going this way, we're going to pivot, we're going to land, we're going to pivot, we're going to land. Heels out, heels in, heels out, heels in. Heels out, heels in, heels out, heels in. Okay, now let's do it with the other leg. My left leg, if you're mirroring it, maybe it's your right, however you want to do it, right? Same thing, heels out, heels in, right? Heels out, heels in. Heels up, heels in. Heels out, heels in. Heels out, heels in. So we're just bringing the other leg to that first leg, right? This leg goes here. So we're going to go to this side, boom, bring this leg over by doing the same thing. Out, in, out, in. Out, in, out, in. Going that way. Out, in, out, in. Okay, so let's do the same thing to one side and the other side without a break in between. Out, in, 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 out, in. What do we got so far? Out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in. And then eventually we start going a little bit quicker, right? And eventually you can even do some variations where you could even step behind, you know, but forget about anything complicated. All we're doing is just learning the basics. And when you get good at this, the good thing is when you add it to music, it's actually not that hard to maintain a beat with it. When your foot lands, that's the beat. So it's boof, 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 right? So the middle portion is between the beats. Boof, 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 boof. Okay. So I would probably just practice just that. And I'm going to give a part 2, which we can almost split it to a separate move, but I'm going to make it the same move only because it's the same thing, but instead of going sideways, we're going to do the same thing going back and forth. Now let me take a sip of beer and I will show you that in a second. This next part is going to be pretty much the same thing that we did. You're still going to be doing this kind of thing where you're pivoting kind of on the balls of your feet. But instead of going to the side, what we're going to do is we're going to pivot and step forward. So let's try this with the right leg, your left if you're mirroring this, right? So we're going to do the same thing, but from this position, instead of this, we're going to step forward, right? Step forward. Step forward. Step forward. Now, the other foot, we're going to do the same thing that we did before, but instead of stepping to the side, after we've stepped forward, we're going to do this. We're going to actually step more forward. We're going to take 2 steps forward, in a sense. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Right? So remember this whole thing, right? Boom, right? We're going to do the same thing though. We're going to pivot on the ball of our foot that we're standing on while the other leg goes up. Instead of going to the side, it's just going to land forward. And now the natural thing to do is, it's almost pointing out a little bit, we're going to shift it, pivot on the ball of our foot of the one that we're now landing on and make the other one go forward and then point out. So again, this is our starting position, middle position, ending position, feet pointing out. Starting position, middle position, ending position, feet pointing out. Middle position, end position, feet pointing out. So instead of going sideways, we've done the same thing, but we just went forward, right? 1, 2. Now, Same thing, we're keeping actually though the weight, instead of stepping forward again, which we could do, I mean, we could do this endlessly and keep stepping forward, right? And you can maybe even incorporate that into your moves, you know what I mean? But again, let's keep it simple. So instead of that, we're gonna step forward once, step forward twice, but we're gonna keep our weight on our back leg and reverse it, right? So we're gonna go forward one, forward two, keeping the weight on the back leg, boom, boom. So, bang, boom, boom, boom. So this then ends up being our starting position. So exactly the same thing that we were doing from side to side, but we're just stepping forward and then we're just stepping back. Now I'm showing it kind of going like this because you can incorporate it into other moves, but if you want, you can actually end up, and I would recommend, at least when you start, just end up in this position. Let's have our heels together, and we got our V, right, 45 degrees on each side. Now let's consider this our starting position, right? And it could be your starting position from here, but it's also our starting position when we do this, and then we just return to this starting position. So it's our starting position when we go here, but it's also, let's say, our starting position when we go here. Doesn't have to be. If you step back even more, you're fine. You know, but let's not do that right now. Let's just, for the sake of learning this, consider this our starting position. Forward, forward, backwards, backwards. Back where we started. Forward, forward, backwards, backwards. Forward, forward, backward, backwards. Okay. What's the good thing about this? The good thing, the great thing about this is you can incorporate both of those. Forward, forward, backwards, backwards, sideways, 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 sideways. Whew, this actually gets tiring, believe it or not. Okay, so as you've seen, you know, the great thing with this is it's such a versatile move. You just turn this one move into at least two moves and probably many more. So we talked about forward, 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 backward, backwards, sideways, sideways, this and that. But you can also go maybe diagonally, or you can just move around the room, you know what I mean, with this movement, right? So again, forward, forward, backward, backwards, sideways, sideways, forward, forward, backward, backward, sideways, sideways. You can move around the room. Okay. So that was the modified Charleston, and that was part two of our little simple dance system. And if you're thinking at this point that this is not simple, it's really as simple as it gets, because it's not easy. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of weird if you've never done this before. It's complicated in the sense that, you know, if you're not used to moving like that, those are weird moves. And that's probably what makes it look good. Because if the dancing was, hey, we're going to walk around, which everybody does every day, so what? It's not going to look interesting. But if you do things that people aren't used to seeing, at least, you know, with the way we typically walk, maybe that's what makes it interesting and that's what makes it good. So hang in there, you'll definitely get it. Believe me, if I got it, you'll definitely get it, right? So one more move, last move. This will be actually easier. So practice this previous move before you go to the next one, but the next one's going to be the T-step, and I'll give you a variation of it too. And this is a nice simple one. It's a nice one to end with. It won't frustrate you as much, I don't think. It takes a little bit of calf strength, as do probably all of them, even what we just did. And you will build calf strength as you do this, of course. But at the beginning, especially if your calves are really weak, especially if, you know, you're a little bit older, we tend to maybe lose a little bit of strength, you know, with time. And so I'll put a link in the description below of a previous video I had done, and it's called something along the lines of 8 exercises that you would do for full body strength. And you can skip right to the section on calves. There's a timestamp, and it's a simple thing you could do just on your stairs at home to help build some calf strength, which may be helpful with these exercises. So that's pretty much it for this one, the modified Charleston, those two versions. And if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We're a new channel, we're small, and so every subscriber helps to grow our channel, and we would really appreciate it. So thank you for watching. The next one's going to be coming up soon, and we will see you then.